matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work. When you go to church. When you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
One thing they fear is 300 million people coming together on one topic and saying, this makes no sense. We need answers. Why is the flat earth so important? Because it shows the deception. There are enough reasonable questions to create reasonable suspicion that we've been lied to. They can't afford to keep being asked. If God forbid everybody came and started demanding answers, and once they can't provide those answers, people realize they are busted. It can't be a mistake. It can't be anything but the deception and control mechanism it is. That is why they fear the flat earth. Flat earth is not a psyop. Flat earth destroys the psyop. Every psyop that's been used to control us. For as long as they've known about it. So this system has been in power and control for hundreds of years, ever since they convinced the rest of the world that they didn't know where they lived. They created this fantastical scenario to make people feel insignificant and to follow those that appear to know better. They're just better liars, deceivers, that have no conscience, and will do everything and anything to everybody and anybody they can to keep that power. Because people are waking up. And no matter how much they try to suppress this flat earth movement, oh, it's gonna keep moving one way or another. You can see it. People are waking up.
Their earth is indisputably not round.
Is it possible that these guys are using stage magic, tricks? Look over here, and is it possible that the world that we're living in has been misdescribed? I definitely know that the world that we're living in has been misdescribed to us and oversimplified, including the solar system model. It's been vastly oversimplified. It doesn't actually accord itself to the very accurate readings we can get today with our technology, right? Like they never predicted that it was going to come to this.
Can't figure out what difference it makes that the people running your world have fucking lied to you over and over your whole life. If you can't figure out what difference that makes, you're a fucking idiot. And if everybody would just come together and demand answers, they would not know what the fuck to do.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know what I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, It's nice to know why it didn't happen, so in the future, if we want to keep doing something, we need to know why something stopped in the past that we wanted to keep it going.
And you can see the real location of the camera and the very bright and near Earth out the window.
10 or 11 years ago, I stated to various scientists that the moon is not a piece of rock, but it is plasma.
The Americans and Russians are thinking of landing men on it.
Oh, well, that will never happen, never happen.
Sometimes it's got something called a lunar wave. There are many videos showing the moon with a lunar wave. We don't know what that is. It's all a mystery.
Do you believe you could possibly land on it?
Absolutely not. You know, you've got a P900 camera now you can buy, and you can zoom in to the moon. That's supposed to be, by the way, 238,000 miles away in deep dark space. It's sometimes translucent. You can see through it and see through it.
Whether you believe we went to the moon or not, everybody believes that there's a debate about it, right? Now, if you really have an open mind and you want to get to the bottom of it, let's have an open mind. Let's get to the bottom of it, and let's take it to trial. First thing we got to do is examine the evidence. And the defendant, the government, says we destroyed all the evidence.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
You destroyed the evidence? Why would you destroy all that precious evidence of the greatest achievement of mankind? These guys are fucked. They destroyed the evidence? Okay, it's on now. It would be an open and shut case.
It's a painful process to build it back again.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
When you look up at the sun and moon, you see two equally sized, equidistant circles tracing similar paths at similar speeds around a flat, stationary Earth.
Rise up, look at that great cosmic light and think about it. That gets up in the eastern horizon every morning and moves across the sky with a kind of symphony of motion and paints its technicolor across the blue, a light that man can never make. They become so involved in thinking about man's progress, they forget to think about the need for God's power.
The experts at NASA, however, claim your common sense, everyday experience is false on all counts. To begin with, they say the Earth is not flat, but a big ball. Not stationary, but spinning around 19 miles per second. They say the Sun does not revolve around the Earth as it appears, but Earth revolves around the Sun. And the Sun is actually 400 times larger than the Moon and 400 times farther away. That's right. You can clearly see they're the same size and distance. You can see the Earth is flat. You can feel the Earth is stationary. But according to the gospel of modern astronomy, the Earth spins 1,038 miles per hour under your feet and revolves 67,108 miles per hour around the Sun. Copernicus calculated the Sun's distance from Earth to be 3,391,200 miles. The next century, Johannes Kepler decided it was actually 12,376,800 miles away. Isaac Newton once said, "It matters not whether we reckon it 28 or 54 million miles distant, for either would do just as well." How scientific.
Science!
Benjamin Martin calculated between 81 and 82 million miles. The Moon is actually a semi-transparent luminary and not the solid, spherical desert planet that NASA would have us believe. In fact, it is likely that both the Sun and Moon are not densely physical at all, and are simply luminous, flat disks able to pass by or through one another during eclipses. The sun and moon luminaries revolve around the Earth once every 24 hours for the sun and approximately 25 hours for the moon, illuminating like spotlights the areas over which they pass. The sun's annual journey from tropic to tropic, solstice to solstice, is what determines the length and character of days, nights, and seasons. What can be more common than the observation that, standing at one end of a long row of lampposts, those nearest to us seem to be the highest, and those farthest away the lowest. As we move along towards the opposite end of the series, those which we approach seem to get higher, and those we are leaving behind appear to gradually become lower. It is an ordinary effect of perspective for an object to appear lower and lower as the observer goes farther and farther away from it. Let anyone try the experiment. The apparently uprising surface of the Earth upon or over which it stands will converge to the angle which constitutes the vanishing point or the horizon, beyond which it will be invisible. Heliocentrists would have you believe the very opposite of what every human who has ever walked the Earth has seen with their own eyes. It is obvious to any child and sovereign-minded adult that the sun, moon, stars, and planets, every light in the sky above, revolves around the motionless Earth beneath our feet. It is also plain to see that the sun and moon are both approximately the same size and situated relatively close to Earth, not 400 times divergent and millions upon millions of miles away. To abandon your senses and everyday experience in favor of such unfounded science fiction fantasies is a fallacy of appeal to authority so extreme that it leaves the brainwashed believer impotent to trust his own natural instincts and forever thereafter chained to the fantastical explanations of astronomical charlatans.
Timon!
Yeah?
Ever wonder what those sparkly dots are up there?
Pumba, I don't wonder. I know.
Oh, what are they?
They're fireflies. Fireflies that got stuck up in that big bluish black thing.
Oh, gee. I always thought they were balls of gas burning billions of miles away.
Who told you something like that? What mook made that up?
Yeah, pretty dumb, huh?
Oh, you're killing me.
'Cause maybe the night the trees might let me know. All the stars are closer. All the stars are closer. All the stars are closer. 'Cause maybe the night the trees might let me know. All the stars are closer. All the stars are closer. All the stars are closer.
To stay fixed in their constellation patterns night after night, year after year, century after century, never changing their relative positions. If Earth was truly a tilting, wobbling, spinning space ball, as NASA and modern astronomy proclaim, the star patterns would never look the same 2 nights in a row, let alone be fixed in exactly the same constellations for thousands upon thousands of years.
I want to talk about flat Earth. And I notice things like when you search it in a search engine, all you get is misinformation. You don't even get real critical thought on it. Well, I saw the blanket censorship, which tells me there's truth to it. It tells me that they're panicking. They're in panic mode. And they don't want us to have real tangible information. More importantly, they don't want you to think critically about it. See, we're in the information age. And this is what the tactic is. This is why Logan Paul just did a video on Flat Earth. It's why Shane Dawson just did a series of videos. It's to discredit the real truth. It tells me that there's something here that they don't want you to know. It tells me that mainstream science, NASA, and more importantly, our government powers are panicking. So they're hiring through the same companies that they own, because there's only 6 companies, by the way. If it's a wild conspiracy theory, why do they need to discredit it? If it's a wild conspiracy theory and it isn't the truth, and no one's going to believe it because they're smart enough to think on their own, why do they need to discredit it? Why do they need, and these same people, keep in mind, Logan Paul, Disney is the parent company. I'm pretty sure he gets a check from Walt Disney. Why would they then put out these misinformation campaigns? I mean, ask yourself these logical questions. I think we know the answer, and I think we know the reason. Is it possible that we're living in that Truman Show today? We're living on the flat earth with the dome, the firmament. As we start to look around us, we start to wake up, our eyes open, maybe that third eye opens, we start to understand, wow, this isn't what I thought it was. Maybe instead of being a worthless blob of goo that came from nothing and then developing into apes that were oohing and ahhing and then eating bananas like a bunch of idiots, maybe instead of that, we actually are the center of the universe. Maybe we are special. In fact, maybe there is unbelievable evidence of creation. But the government has decided to hide that from you. Why? Why is there so much misinformation? Why is there a giant disinformation campaign going on right now when it comes to things like flat earth? Are my eyes lying to me? Or can I trust what I'm actually seeing? For Christopher, the earth is a globe. I was told that when I was 1 year old. They said, look, this is a globe. Isn't it interesting? It's one of the first things that you're actually taught. The earth isn't flat, it's a globe. Even though for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years, they thought that the earth was flat. Oh, but Christopher, we have all these images of outer space that show that the earth is a sphere. Really? Where do the images come from? NASA. Oh, you mean the same NASA that is our government, our secretive breakaway government that hasn't been back to the moon since the 1960s. That NASA? Have you ever seen it with your own eyes? How come none of the electronics account for curvature of the earth when you're flying a plane? None of the engineering of bridges and train tracks, buildings, all kinds of infrastructure that goes for miles and hundreds and maybe thousands of miles, none of it accounts for, in its actual engineering blueprints, for the curvature of the earth. I mean, if I was building a giant bridge of hundreds of miles, wouldn't I have to account for the curve? Or is it possible there's not a curve and that we've been lied to for a reason?
Everybody in this room was taught the story of how Columbus went before Queen Isabella of Spain and he was going to prove to her that the world was the globe. So this world is round story is 100% bullshit. It's total fiction. Yet how did our grandparents learn this? We learned this? Our grandchildren are probably going to learn this. How come? Because history is pop culture.
And that dude who jumped out of a perfectly good balloon, what's his name? Felix Baumgartner, edge of space jump. But the honesty of it would greatly diminish what I think people thought he was actually doing. And not only that, they made sure to photograph him standing there with a really wide-angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. You see this curvature of Earth's surface, and he said, wow, he's in space, look at that. No, he's not!
It's almost overwhelming. When you're standing there in the pressure suits, the only thing that you hear is yourself breathing. You can see the curvature of the Earth. You can see the sky is totally black.
At that height?
You don't see the curvature of the earth.
You just don't. That stuff is flat.
You can see the curvature of the earth.
You don't see the curvature of the earth.
You can see the curvature of the earth.
You just don't. That stuff is flat.
With a really wide angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. Wide angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. With a really wide angle lens, which curves horizontal lines.
Scientists wrote that the earth is flat.
So trust your eyes and trust your experience. Trust your feeling, trust your intuition. Look out, see the horizon, flat. Feel for yourself. You're not moving. Just sit still. Just sit still for a second. You're not moving. You're not spinning around an axis at 1,000 miles per hour, rotating around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour, spiraling around the galaxy at 500,000 miles per hour, and shooting off from a big bang at 67 million miles per hour. You're not. You're motionless. You're just sitting there. Just sit still. What does that even mean, sit still? You think you could sit still with all those motions? Just feel like you're moving. Feel that? Same thing you've always felt? Nothing. Ever. Nobody's ever felt movement. Nobody's ever seen the earth move. Nobody's ever seen the earth curve.
That's why it's so hard to convince you you've been fooled.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin.
Don't call me a conspiracy theorist for this information I'm about to share. I saw these clips I'm about to show you. It was so bizarre and so unbelievable, I had to make this video. Let's listen to what NASA's oldest active astronaut, Deceive, has to say.
I could go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process until we're back again.
Are you serious? We don't have the technology to go back to the moon. Too much of a painful process to put back together again? You're talking about NASA, which has hundreds of billions, upwards to over $1 trillion given to them by the U.S. government to do this exact type of stuff. The moon landing is supposed to be one of NASA's biggest accomplishments, and they can't even reproduce it, considering the fact that we've had cell phones, increasing technology, and a bell curve of innovation over the past 50 and 60 years. But yeah, what he said. If that wasn't weird enough, let's meet Gene Kranz, the Apollo 11 flight director.
I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence, and as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
But your own research has shown the telemetry data is missing.
That's right.
Could this be true? No big deal, just the original science data from the moon landing. Completely missing. Is that supposed to be understandable from $1 trillion branch of government? Let's take a trip to NASA's Goddard Space Center with the man who made a documentary talking about this exact stuff.
If it's anywhere, it should be here at NASA's Goddard Space Center in Maryland, home to the National Space Science Data Archive.
Film you're making now, what is it? Do you have a name? I mean, do you have to have a name for it yet, or did we go? Did we go? Okay. Right. We've been unable to track it down. I mean, we don't know where this telemetry data ended up, and we don't know what path it may have taken. So, unfortunately, I'm afraid I can't really give you much of a clue as to where this data ended up and whether it still exists or not. NASA admitted that it had lost the original footage of man's first steps on the moon.
That's correct. They also admitted to losing the original footage. This is not a conspiracy theory, folks. This is mainstream news. It's in Reuters. What I spoke about earlier was in Forbes. No big deal, just the data, the footage, and the technology from the moon landing completely. What's their excuse for losing the tapes? Oh, we were running out of tapes, so we needed to retape over those tapes. Considering the budget is up to $17 billion per year. Doesn't that seem a little strange? I'm not saying we didn't go to the moon. I'll let you try your own conclusions and have your own theories as to what truly happened. All I'm saying is, it's very, very odd that we don't have the technology to go back to the moon. We don't have the original moon landing footage, and we don't have the data from the moon landing. Considering the hundreds of billions of dollars that NASA has received from the federal government and from your taxpayer dollars, maybe next time we can employ something to keep an eye on. Thank you for watching, and let me know your comments.
Okay, yes. We are bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks? And it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no? See, I keep meeting these people. I mean, just a few days ago, I met this man whom I greatly admire, a Swedish physicist, Gustav Bjornstrand, and he told me that he no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. When I was at Findhorn, I met this extraordinary English tree expert who had devoted his life to saving trees. Just got back from Washington, lobbying to save the redwoods. He's 84 years old. He always travels with a backpack. He never knows where he's going to be tomorrow. And when I met him at Findhorn, he said to me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He said, "New York, yes, that's a very interesting place. Do you know a lot of New Yorkers who keep talking about the fact that they want to leave but never do?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Why do you think they don't leave?" I gave him different than our theories. He said, "Oh, I don't think it's that way at all." He said, "I think that New York is the new model for the new concentration camp, where the camp has been built by the inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they built. They built their own prison, and so they exist in a state of schizophrenia, where they are both guards and prisoners, and as a result, they no longer have, having been lobotomized, the capacity to leave the prison they made, or to even see it as a prison." And then he went into his pocket, and he took out a seed for a tree, and he said, "This is a pine tree." He put it in my hand, and he said, "Escape before it's too late." See, actually, for 2 or 3 years now, Chiquita and I have had this very unpleasant feeling that we really should get out. That we really should feel like Jews in Germany in the late 30s. Get out of here. Of course, the problem is where to go, because it seems quite obvious that the whole world is going in the same direction. See, I think it's quite possible that the 1960s represented the last burst of the human being before he was extinguished, and that this is the beginning of the rest of the future now, that from now on there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing, and there'll be nobody left almost to remind them that there once was a species called a human being, with feelings and thoughts, and that history and memory are right now being erased, and soon nobody will really remember that life existed on the planet.
Space will be fake as long as space is seen as real, but reality is only real if you do not allow it to be fake. So let's discuss reality versus what they fake and simply call real. First, let's listen to author William Burroughs. He wrote the book called The New Ocean, the story of the first space age, where he starts off by telling us that science fiction created the space age. The speech is from 1998. Let's listen in.
One of the things that runs through the entire history of the space age and before the space age, and this is one of the leitmotifs that also run through the book, is the direct relation between science and science fiction. You're not at this too long when you don't come to understand that it's the science fiction people, the SF people, as one of my friends calls them, who laid the blueprint at the programs, and I did a fair amount of thinking about that throughout the entire process. Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, who was the great Russian rocketeer and the father of rocketry, and whom you never heard about during the Cold War for reasons that will not mystify you. Tsiolkovsky and Hermann Oberth, the German, the father of rocketry there, and our own Goddard, all read true things. They all read From the Earth to the Moon, energized and captivated by science fiction. I started the book off, in fact, going back to Daedalus, because I had to come to grips with why exactly do we do this?
Why exactly do we do this? And who is so hell-bent on space travel? I mean, why do these people want off this planet so bad?
There are cynical answers, and they're relevant. One is that corporations in aerospace want to make a lot of money. Another is a lot of generals on both sides wanted to get the high ground before or a supposed advantage, whatever that meant, and we're still not sure we know. But beneath that, there were the dreamers, there were the sci-fi people, there were the people who wanted to go for what reason. This is what I had to try to come to grips with, and when I went back to Daedalus, when I went back to Greek mythology, it occurred to me that one of the reasons is transcendence. I came to realize in the course of researching the book that what I was dealing with was not in reality, was not hard-nosed businessmen who were trying to keep their stocks up and generals who were trying to one-up the enemy. What I was dealing with was members of a religion. That's exactly what this undertaking is. Religion. What else to call people, I'm talking about serious engineers who design colonies on Mars and interstellar missions that they know they will never live to see. Religion. What else to call them but members of a religion as people in the Middle Ages started to build cathedrals? They knew they would never see religion. And what is the trait that has propelled this all these years? I remember being at the annual meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, which I go to every year, several years ago. The magazine Govement was giving out buckets full of free buttons. And the button we were giving out that year said, "Unique shall inherit the earth." The rest of us are going to get exposed. And I believe that there are people around everywhere who truly believe that, and they're the ones who fuel, who fuel this entire undertaking. In terms of it being a PR ploy by NASA, the answer is yes, and the answer is NASA is unexcelled at doing PR. I don't mean that, however, in a pejorative way. As I explained in Florida, Janet Reno does PR, Ken Starr does PR, the Clinton White House does PR, the Marlboro Man does PR, and Slobodan Milosevic does PR. Why shouldn't the space agency? They've got something to sell, and they're trying to sell it. And so is the Planetary Society. Bruce Murray's in the late Carl Sagan Society in Pasadena. These folks are a force. They're out there. And the first thing you do is say, well, it's pipe dreams. On the other hand, as Sandy Kramer, who lives right here in Maryland, who is involved in a lot of the space program for Lockheed, likes to say, the money is spent on Earth. It isn't spent in outer space. And the people who are in these organizations, like the Mars Group, like the Planetary Society, are the cutting edge of everybody who comes after them. You can't do any of this stuff unless you dream about it. And they're doing the dreaming.
Science fiction that became scientific fact, science dreamers that became the space travelers. Look no further than the Jules Verne book From the Earth to the Moon, written in 1865, 100 years before NASA would convince the world that they did the same. It came so close to actual events, you'd swear either Jules Verne could see the future or NASA built the mission around the book. You can decide that for yourself, which one seems more likely. Verne predicted the moon landing would be by the Americans. Verne sent 3 humans on a flight around the moon in December, and in 1968, NASA did the same, in December. Verne sent them on a Columbiad, which took off from Tampa, Florida, about 120 miles from where NASA would eventually launch from. Verne wrote of a competition between Florida and Texas to be the launch facility, which happened in real life, and Verne's astronauts were picked up by a U.S. Navy vessel that witnessed the splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. And of course we know the Apollo astronauts were picked up in the Pacific Ocean by the U.S. aircraft carrier Yorktown. The uncanny similarities don't end there, but what is obvious is science fiction became science fact. In 1945, Arthur C. Clarke published his geostationary satellite in Wireless World magazine as a letter to the editors, and it wasn't even considered seriously. However, in less than 15 years, NASA was making science fiction science fact. It was the era of the satellite. Easily one of the most debated topics in this search for truth about where we live is the idea of the satellite. A thought experiment by Newton and a letter to the editor by Clarke, and now over 6 billion people believe in something we don't really even have a need for. So let's go to a 1970 NASA film called Space Down to Earth to learn all about these orbiting works of genius and funny sounds.
These are sounds of our times. Call telemetry. It is the way satellites orbiting in space report to controllers on Earth. Each spacecraft has its own signature, a unique tone. Engineers call it data. You may see it later as a weather report or a television picture from around the world. Satellites. What they are, what they're doing for you now, and what will be happening in the decade of the 70s.
Now, if for some reason you thought those were fake, or the beeps and beebles were added, nope, those are all authentic. And if you think that these satellites look fake as can be, and that these guys are all actors, well, me too.
Tyros, television infrared operational satellites. Over the past 10 years, 20 of these hatbox-shaped satellites have been successfully launched for use by NASA and the Weather Bureau. The television eyes of Tyros scan the entire globe daily, reporting on cloud cover and warning of major storms. Since the first operational weather satellites started taking off pictures, roughly 600 severe storms have been detected, followed, and predictions made about their course. A recent satellite in the Tyro series does the work of 2 spacecraft. Carrying twice as many cameras, it's capable of discerning cloud formations as small as 2 miles across.
Now, I'm sure everyone will agree that those last few satellites were just pretty funny, hilarious actually, and spinning like crazy, covered with their gold tinfoil. That is some high-tech stuff right there. And here, if anyone actually believes that what we're looking at is the sun, well, I have to ask you, how? I have to ask how anyone can believe that that is the sun, unless they have just chosen to base their facts, base their beliefs on whatever NASA says. In which case, well, they've given up their right to consider evidence and to make their own conclusion. And that's their opinion, that's their prerogative, but I don't see how anybody can think that that's real. I mean, this one here clearly looks like it's outside of a Walmart as part of a child's ride. The whole thing is just, look at that one. I mean, does anyone think that's real? Do you really think that that is in space communicating with the ground? I mean, that right there is protected from micrometeorites, solar wind, supplying our communications from space in orbit. Sure.
Over 50 countries are now using inexpensive automatic picture readout equipment to view daily weather patterns over their own territory. These same countries also benefit from cloud picture mosaics, routinely made available by the Weather Bureau in Europe, Asia, Australia, and North and South America. The weather mosaic is built up from individual weather photos and processed by computer. It is then retransmitted via satellite.
And so lucky us, by 1970, we had for the first time taken some satellite imagery of the Earth, actual images, right? But wait a second. That's not where South America goes. Globe believers tell me that we know where the continents are, and we know their shape and size, and we check on this. Let's check a NASA image here, because I'm confused. They're both NASA images, right? Alright, so first I went to the Discover Epic camera, and clearly South America is to the right of Florida, all of it. Here we're looking at a false color image, and again, South America is to the right of Florida. Alright, well let's try a different NASA image, and clearly here we can see that all of South America is to the right of Florida. So we'll bring back that 1970s image actually taken from a satellite, and there you go. This does raise the question of which one exactly is a picture if we've been told that both are pictures. Granted, they are strips and they have to be put together, but you think that we'd get the location of confidence correct, right? So So which one's the picture, 1970 or the Epic camera? Did South America magically move? Continental drift? You can also verify this by checking the Gale Peters and see that yes, South America seems to be to the right of Florida. And we can also check the Mercator and we get the same thing. So what's going on here? Let's look at a few other things. Let's take a look at Spain. We can see that above Africa there, that something is clearly wrong with the water and with the size of Spain itself. Let's look over at Lake Hudson on the left side at the top and see that that is way different. One of those is clearly not a photo. Also, and the worst one I've seen so far, if you just take a look at Mexico and Baja and down towards South America there, you'll see that I overlaid something from the Discover satellite on top of the 1970s map, and you'll see there is a huge discrepancy. And no matter what I tried to do, when I tried to make sure that Baja California and Florida were matched the same size, look at the discrepancy inside the red circle. Something's wrong here. I think we're being lied.
Communication. Some of the greatest strides in putting space to work have taken place in this field. In 1960, Americans made 100 billion telephone calls. In 1969, nearly 200 billion things. New uses are continually being found for telecommunications.
Oh boy, not this one. So now phone conversations are using satellites in 1970. Sure they are. This was our chance to call out these guys for fraud they've been perpetrating. And granted, nobody would have ever expected them to be just basically pulling off a grand deception. But this was our chance, and still is our chance, to point out this stuff is faker than fake. This is just another space-age lie. Throughout the 1800s, many were working on the idea of the telephone, and then from 1900 to 1920, this included many of the firsts, like the first international call, the first transcontinental call, and the transcontinental was done via wires across the United States, and across the Atlantic Ocean it was done through radio waves to transmit voice. Now this would raise too many questions about the shape of the Earth, and radio was not perfect and was very variable. So they ran the TAT-1 cables in 1955, and then in 1988 switched to fiber optic. This is how all ground-based telephone works. For short distances, you can use cell phones, which connect with a tower close to you, and then use the same ground-based cables as landlines do. Nothing fancy. And for people who think that these cell phones are equipped with GPS and talk to satellites, well, you're even wrong there. Your iPhone cannot send a signal 22,000 miles. Sorry. Even based on current science, your cell phone only receives a signal, and it does not send one back. Now, you can believe that that signal comes from space all you want. That's up to you. If you believe that, though, then you believe that satellites have synchronized clocks and shoot signals at the speed of light through ever-changing and varying atmospheric conditions, but are perfect. Does that sound crazy? Well, indeed it is. What is actually used is something called trilateration, and this can be easily achieved via a 2D system or a 3D system using circles or spheres. Let me show you on a 2D system. So let's say we've got these three cell towers, cell tower A, B, and C. And all we need to do first is to measure your distance from tower A. So once we have that, we know that you basically exist somewhere on this circle, since you are a radius distance away from A. But where exactly are you on that circle? So we then measure your distance from tower B, and when we have that distance, we now know that you're at one of two spots. And lastly, we measure your distance from tower C. And boom, you have the only one possible location, and that's where you are. Now, does that sound more realistic, or would you like to change these towers to magical boxes in orbit, who have synchronized clocks and take relativity and Earth spin into account? They send data at the speed of light, which is supposed to be in a vacuum, not the atmosphere of Earth, and then using your distance from each satellite, you compute your location exactly, because from 22,000 miles away, what we'd have to do first is have those clocks synchronized exactly, and then send signals, and then multiply the time it takes for that signal to get to you by the speed of light, and ta-da, you have your distance. Truth be told, in my opinion, no one uses satellites. It's a fairy tale told by the elite to the unsuspecting slaves. If we are using any kind of satellites, we are using high-altitude balloons, so let's hear about them first. How about the first high-altitude balloon? This would be known as Echo 1.
We're in the midst of a global communications explosion. Helping meet this demand are communications satellites. First transmitted transmission via Echo satellite. By bouncing radio waves off its shiny surface, it made possible long-distance telephone conversations and the transmission of photographs and music. Other communication satellites followed. Telstar, Relay, Syncom. Each a research step leading to commercial spacecraft capable of handling satellite communications.
Sorry, I'm not buying it. I mean, come on. Phone communications first with satellites, and now we're talking about Echo 1. I mean, so get this. Echo 1 was a 100-foot spherical balloon that basically was launched and put up into orbit 1,000 miles from Earth. Okay, the ISS is only 250 miles from Earth, but this balloon was 1,000 miles. So one of two things basically is true. Number one, Echo 1 was real, in which case all of our satellites are just balloons that are bouncing signals. Or number two, Echo 1 was just another NASA lie. I'll let you decide that for yourself. Alright, this is just a short little article from the Wikipedia for Echo 1, and it says basically the balloon satellite functioned as a reflector, not as a transceiver. So after it was placed into low Earth orbit, a signal could be sent to it reflected by its surface and returned Earth. So something would be very easily for them to do now with your direct TV. Then comes this very interesting line. To keep the sphere, this is according to NASA by the way, to keep the sphere inflated in spite of meteorite punctures and skin permeability, a makeup gas system using evaporating liquid or crystals of a subliming solid were incorporated inside the satellite. Totally believable because everything NASA says, people have to agree with. Don't you dare question it. And it talks about the first attempt and then the second attempt. It's basically a big joke. It was supposed to even come down much sooner than it did, according to them. It says Echo 1 was originally loosely estimated to survive until around its fourth dip into the atmosphere in July of 1963, but possibly until 1964 or beyond. But it ended up living much longer than the three estimates, and it was not until May 24th of 1968 that it finally returned into Earth's atmosphere, burning up. These people have literally gone crazy because we let them say whatever they want with immunity. They can just get away with anything. Anything they say, people buy. It's ridiculous. Watch this next video and tell me if you think it's real. Also watch towards the end. I'll probably rewind it and show it twice. But watch the barge come out of nowhere. Here goes. SpaceX, by the way, is fake X. Alright, so watch again here as I slowed it down. Watch underneath the fin on the left. It just doesn't make sense if you rewind it and watch it again, which we'll do. Let's watch it one more time. Alright, one more time. Watch underneath the left fin. All of a sudden you're going to see the barge appear and move into place. Sure. But, of course, it's just one of those things. They get away with whatever they want to say. Now, moving on. I've said before, people know my opinion, that SpaceX is fake X and they're faking it just as much as Daddy NASA. But let's just think about this logically for a second. The Falcon 9 first stage is 36,000 pounds dry, and it's carrying at the time of separation from the second stage 64,000 pounds of propellant, a total of 100,000 pounds. A Toyota Camry is 3,500 pounds. So if we really wanted to understand what's going on here, we would have to stack some Camrys. Now I put the number at 15 because we feel if we stack 15, we're at around 51,000, which is probably what it's at as it's getting closer to the ground. Here's the even bigger problem for me. If we went to the top of the Empire State Building, let's say, and we dropped a bundle of 15 cars, can you imagine what kind of thrust would have to be thrown in order to stop that from hitting the ground? I'm sure they do the mathematical equations on it, but I can tell you one thing, it's not reality. That's all I got to say about that. So yeah, when we stack 15 cars, 52,000 pounds, imagine dropping those bundle of cars and somehow being able to shoot something out, or it's a rocket engine, so it's combusting basically inside the rocket, and enough is being propelled from it to hold 36,000 pounds at minimum from hitting the ground? I don't think so, Tim. And now the point of this video. The point of this video is that NASA should have been stopped long ago. They've been faking satellites and faking images and faking nonsense the whole time. And it was our time to stop them then. Because what has happened is it's almost gotten too late. So we still can point out the things of old, but what's happening to the present and what's going to happen in the future, reality is becoming indiscernible from augmented reality. Also, some people just aren't capable of understanding what deception means or how easy it is to fool them. Hate to bring this up again because I've put this guy on the back burner as a fanboy or a sellout or one of the above or both of the above. And that person is Jarrah White, who did good work on the moon landings, and his good work stopped there because he believes in everything else space travel. He's okay with NASA lying to his face about going to the moon, but he doesn't question anything else. Doesn't question the size of Saturn, doesn't question it, because he thinks those pictures are real. Pictures of Pluto are real. The moon landing was fake. Does that make any sense to you? I mean, to honestly think that the moon landing photos are fake and the Pluto images are real, and I would guess that your job must be a photo forensics expert, because otherwise I don't understand how you make that determination. For me, NASA will never ever get a free pass. Never. It just will not happen for them, for me. To think that they faked the moon landings but now have a rover that was flown to Mars and dropped from a craft with a parachute, and Adam Seltzner celebrating in the control room looking for his good friend Miguel San Martino, if he's here. If they've earned something, they've earned it. They certainly have not earned the right to say that those images are from Pluto. They can't turn around and take an image of the Earth. There's a problem there. Unless we had independent secondary verification, which we will never have, because anybody going to space will have to go through NASA. It's the way it is, and it will be that way until we get rid of NASA. Some people just don't understand how easy it would be for us to be fooled. An example of that is Gem Panda. Gem Panda did a recent video called Why I Have 75 Sock Puppet Accounts. Oh wait, that's wrong video. The video is called How I Know We Went to the Moon. It's 2 hours long, and I can sum it up in 4 words. Because I trust men. It doesn't matter that we can't do it today. It doesn't matter that it was impossible with the technology then. It doesn't matter that they lost the tapes or that all the telemetry is gone. It doesn't even matter that these are the videotapes of the Earth from the trip to the moon on Apollo 8. And if you can watch this and say these are real, then you simply believe in the words of men and what NASA tells you to believe. Because anyone with their own brain and their own mind can watch this and come to the right conclusion. Go ahead and watch.
Okay. Well, what are we saying? We got a picture saying that we're not saying this again. We got a picture as far as saying all that. Roger, okay. Okay, we're just picking it up at 3 o'clock on our screen. Okay. Moving up toward 1 o'clock and toward the center. Keep it going in that direction. Okay. Looking better. You're holding up about 1 to 2 o'clock. Looking better. Give us a little more in that same direction. You're down at 3 o'clock now. We see about half of what you see. It might be disappearing at our 5 o'clock.
Put it this way, even Jarrah White knows this is fake. Even Jarrah White.
Okay, we have it. What you're seeing, Mike, is Houston, what you're seeing is the Western Hemisphere. Looking at the top is the North Pole. In the center, just lower to the center, is South America. All the way down to Cape Horn. I can see Baja California and the southwestern part of the United States. There's a big fog cloud bag going northeast. There was a lot of the Gulf of Mexico going up to the eastern part of the United States.
Alright, so here we are finishing off with some more Apollo 8 fraud footage. Go ahead and watch that and enjoy it. And Gem Panda, or whatever sock puppet account you're going by today, you made your video. Congrats on your trust in NASA. We're all very proud of you. I'm assuming your next video will be Lee Harvey Oswald, Lone Gunman. That one should be really good, really riveting. Looking forward to that one. Followed by 9/11 jet fuel causes a 110-story building to become dust. I can't wait to see that one. It's going to be full of evidence and good research. And then you'll probably do one to finish it off. Maybe Sandy Hook, 112-pound maniac kills mother and children at a school, which I think will be just an epic video. So looking forward to that, and thank you for considering all the evidence before you do your videos. That's exactly what I want to see from good researchers. Why I can't get this through to people, I'll never understand, but you can't go to the sources and use that as your only research. Do you not see that a deception is a deception because it deceives you? Not because they tell you that they're faking space travel. That wouldn't be a very good deception. So, here we're looking at the AR kit from Apple, and this technology, believe it or not, is available on your cell phone. So is augmented reality, virtual reality. All these things are coming at a fast pace, and this is why it's kind of now or never as far as NASA and space travel and SpaceX and JAXA and Roscosmos and all these guys go, because as long as you allow your reality to be fake, then they will continue to fake reality. And it will just get worse and worse, and even harder for us to decipher what is real and what isn't. The time is now to stand up and make a stink and make them prove they're doing what they say they're doing. Why do we not have a 24/7 video camera on the Earth from the orbiting spacecraft if you think we have satellites that can beam signals down to anywhere? What is the possible excuse for shutting off the live feed every 30 minutes? Go ahead and make up every excuse you want. It's bullshit. It's 2017. Okay? Why do we not have pictures of stars in space? Make all the excuses you want. Shutter speed, aperture, focal length, exposure. Like I don't have a $300 camera in my house right now that can do a better job than NASA can. Why don't we have a camera on the moon for this upcoming lunar eclipse showing us as the Earth gets in the way of the sun? Where's that camera? Where's the videos and the pictures of Earth? But all you guys are too smart. Can't possibly be fooled, right? Can't be fooled at all. Let's finish it off with some AR kit showing us a Falcon 9 landing in a pool. I don't know about you guys, I saw no cuts at all. Jera? Must have been real, right? You got it. Stay vigilant, guys. You can't prove what they are telling us is true, because we're at a time where we will no longer be able to tell. It's right around the corner. In fact, it's here, right? It's on your iPhone. So let's finish off with another AR kit, augmented reality portal. Check out this. And if you think that they can't fake space and spacewalks and planets and moon landings and Mars rovers and galaxies and all the nonsense that they've been faking for years, they are at the point in time that they wanted to get to, where technology has caught up and we can no longer decipher what is real. Yet all we need to do is look at the past 50 years and you can tell that NASA and SpaceX and Roscosmos and JAXA, it's all a scam. It's all a big lie, and all you got to do is research it. Just look for the evidence, and I don't mean what they hand you. If something is real, then it's real, and it will prove itself. Yet all this stuff is nothing more than word salad, numbers on paper, and men who tell you it's true. So guys, I appreciate you watching another one of my videos. Be kind to each other, and don't lie to each other. And remember to open your mind, because there's truth inside. Until next time, guys, this has been Jeranism. Peace.